So welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted that we have back with us Mo Romanowicz, who's Group CEO at the NCE Group. So, Mo, thank you so much for spending a bit more time with us. And it was probably about a year or so ago since we last spoke, but if you'd like to first introduce yourself, the NCE Group, what you do and how you help people, that would be brilliant.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me back. Good morning. Yes, so the we've been in touch a year ago, haven't we? And
Yes,
we did talk about the growth plan that we have in place for the
yes,
business and where we're heading. And 12 months on, probably slightly more, we have actually progressed with our acquisition strategy that we did plan to have. We
brilliant.
made two acquisitions, and that has brought the business to the level we want it to be at. And we've got more acquisitions in the pipeline from a growth perspective, as well as our just standard organic growth on a year-by-year basis.
Wonderful.
It's quite stressful, I must say, but it has some bits of joy to it. So
Brilliant.
yes, I am pleased with where we are and definitely looking forward for the next 12 months.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So on track, as you said, we talked about your growth plans, which you're delivering. So it would be great if, with your permission, maybe talk about, especially for people, about growth through acquisition and some of the things you've learned about that. What things are great, what things are to look out for. What has been your key experiences?
Absolutely. Well, what I would say is avoid brokers to start with. That's a big one that we've learned. We
Yes.
come across quite a lot of businesses and a lot of leads through acquisition that comes through brokers.
Yep.
I'll come to talk about that in a moment. But what I've learned from my perspective is that learning by acquisition is one of the most amazing, enduring and fun experience you would have, because in an overnight, if you have a business that turns over, let's say, £1 million, and you make an acquisition for another business that turns £1 million, in an overnight you've doubled your turnover.
Yes.
So if you think on a larger scale, if you turn over 3 million and then you acquire a business that turns over between 3 to 5, sometimes you're not only doubling your turnover, but you are even making a huge jump.
Yep.
So from a turnover point of view, as well as members of staff, because you're growing on both avenues. And then suddenly you also realize that you have grown your customer base.
Great.
And then your expertise within a certain industry. So especially if you are bolting on businesses within the same industry, trying to create or grow a group within synergies, soft and hard synergies, you just realize that everything grow together
Yep.
suddenly, which is amazing. It takes quite a bit until you get the synergies between the businesses lined up, people, clients, systems. Yes.
Great.
So I would say it's a great way of, if you're wanting to grow, look at acquisitions.
Brilliant. I think it's very sound advice. In fact, there's somebody else I know quite well who has grown quite significantly through acquisitions, and he actually posted, I think it was probably this morning, but over the last couple of days, about his view is don't ever start a business, always acquire, and because of lots of great reasons. But one thing just really interesting that you said, and I think it's something that a lot of people probably won't have thought about, is you've described acquiring businesses of equal size, or potentially even a larger size to your own business. How does that work for you? Without, obviously, just in the general sense.
Yes, certainly. So of an equal size, it's pretty comfortable, isn't it? Because you know the operations, you know what it costs, you
Yep.
know more or less your overheads. As
Yes.
long as you're acquiring within the same industry,
Yep.
the only difference will be the location, and then focusing on those synergies. It's it's very much safe to go of a similar size,
Yes.
and I think it depends on the opportunities you've got out there. However, when you start to look at a bigger size, it feels as in you're trying to take over the world sometimes, and maybe the seller would look at you as a prospect and would say, well, but your current setup is not as big as ours. So what's the idea here? The idea doesn't change, to be fair. The synergies are still there. The growth is still there. It's slightly bigger in turnover, but that does not mean that it is a better or a worse business.
Yes.
I think what comes with that is focusing on the bottom line, on
Yeah.
what business achieve on the bottom line, and I
Yeah.
think that's probably vital for most business entrepreneurs,
Yes.
because turnover is a number. We know what it is. We need
Yeah.
to focus on our bottom line, as in our margins and our net profit. So yes, I would say be flexible. Look at bigger if you want to look at bigger, but don't go too big. So I would say for small to size medium businesses, if they're turning over £1 million, I would say just look at businesses that turn over between 1 to 5 or 1 to 6 and just target them.
Wonderful. Because I suspect, I'm not sure that a lot of people would consider that typically you acquire businesses significantly smaller than you, but that's not the case in your book. You know that we have to be much bigger to acquire smaller stuff. Which and obviously the cost, effort, and energy and time of acquiring a business is pretty much the same, whatever its size. So it makes sense to go as big as reasonably and practically and safe as
I
possible.
totally agree. As you rightly said there, the cost, the time, and the emotions that goes into a deal, it's exactly the same, whether that's £1 million turnover or that's a £10 million turnover,
Yes.
as in size. It doesn't make any difference, totally. And also what I would advise is don't be don't be tempted by only looking at acquiring 100% in other businesses. I think people
Okay.
sometimes get a little bit um, get a little bit take over by the idea, oh, I want to acquire this business, but I want 100% of it. This is just sanity. I would just make sure that there are synergies between businesses.
Yep.
The leaders and the staff can work together,
Yep.
and then just an equity share with a growth plan that would achieve
Like
maybe
it.
a lot more than 100%.
Like it, love it. So, if you don't mind me asking these questions, feel free not to answer some of them if they're not appropriate to you. But would you? So, would you take a minority share in another business, or is it primarily majority, but leave some in for the existing owners and partners potentially?
No, absolutely. With our strategy, we are open to taking minority. We did take some minority previously, and we will carry on to do so.
Brilliant.
I trust and believe in people, as we touched on our first call, if you
Yes,
remember.
I do.
And I also trust and believe in work stronger together, stronger
Great.
together. However you want to put it, it sounds right. So when we work together, we are always stronger. So if there is vision, if there is a plan, if there is a growth plan, we will achieve everything. Whether you're a minority or you're a majority, it doesn't matter. If we can grow a business and then capitalize on it, we're all benefiting.
Wonderful. And if I may ask, what are some of the key drivers for people that you're looking to acquire? People are obviously have a reason for wanting to sell some or all of the shares in their companies. What are some of the drivers you see?
So it is a mixture, Chris. There are a fair amount of business entrepreneurs and business owner out there who have well past their retirement age, and
Yes.
they feel like they have stuck in their businesses,
Yeah.
and then they're not sure what to do with it, how to take the next step, where to go from here onward. But at the same time, they don't want to just close the doors and let down the staff and let down their customers. They've built a reputation
Yeah.
over a number of years, and you would be surprised, sometimes 10, 20, and 25 years of reputation. And they feel like they've stuck in a limbo.
Yeah.
But when those conversations do happen, and when we put an exit strategy in place for them, it just sparks life.
Yeah.
They find the safe pair of hands who's going to take the business and make sure that delivers to the staff, to the clients, keep the name and the reputation, but also they will have the opportunity to go for retirement. So
Yes.
that's one part. And then the other part is, I would say, the entrepreneurs who run their business and they feel like they've got to a stage where they can't take it any more than where they
Yes.
are now. They've grown it, and don't get me wrong, they've grown it from nothing to a million to a 2 million turnover, and they just feel like that's it for them. There
Yeah.
isn't any more avenues. They've tried,
Yeah.
they did, and they can't take it any further. And they feel by bringing a bigger group, bigger operations, systems, experience, investment in contact, expertise, etc., would alleviate that level and be able to take it
Brilliant.
into the next stages.
Brilliant.
And this is where the other side of acquisitions comes on board. Yes.
Brilliant. Brilliant. It's great to hear, and I've seen this on many occasions. I've helped people buy, helped people sell, and I think that there's a lot of preconception about a purchase has to be, for an instance, all the money up front. I'm going to buy it, it's worth £1 million, here's £1 million. It doesn't have to be, especially when you work collaboratively with those shareholders, and often people are just looking for a way forward, both financially but also, as you said, emotionally. They've built a great business. They want to look after their customers, they want to look after the team, and if we can provide that solution for them, then many people will be open to that.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely. There are many structures, as you may well know, when structuring a deal.
Yes.
And there could be many ways that do satisfies both parties, as in the buyer and the seller, and work in many different avenues in order
Yeah.
to have satisfaction on both sides. Whether that's a down payment, no down payment on day one, and then deferred consideration, whether that's an earn-out structure. There are many avenues, and you
Right.
get surprised sometimes that many entrepreneurs who ran businesses for so long, they don't actually know about those things. So I think it is
Yes.
really important that the business owners out there, and give them some, and give something back to the community, to be fair.
Completely agree. It's as I say, I've seen many different structures and many different ways. And one of the things I often say is the most valuable way of moving forward is to get a third party in. And I've done this, and I'm not here to say that people should engage with me, but get a third party to facilitate the deal before you get the lawyers too heavily involved, because lawyers have to act on behalf of each party and therefore tend to be a little bit competitive rather than collaborative. Does that make any sense?
100%. Look, lawyers are sometimes rigid, but that's probably due to what they do.
Yes.
It's your solicitors.
Yeah.
They're corporate solicitors. They go by dotting the I's and crossing the T's and making sure that they maximize the benefit of their client. However, lawyers aren't accountants. And now we come to accountants.
Yeah.
I know I'm an accountant. Now we come to accountants.
Yes.
And with all due respect, accountants do know how to value a business. They do know the numbers. However, accountants aren't CFOs and they aren't acquisition experts. So when it comes to looking at businesses, and I've seen this for so many times in the last couple of years, when we start to evaluate businesses, looking at opportunities and talk to owners. First of all, the lack of knowledge from the owner's point of view about what their business does and how it operates. Even you'd be surprised that people don't know what's an EBITDA or what's an EBIT is, which is fine. Look, we will explain and we will educate things.
Yes.
But yes, so you would be surprised that businesses aren't ready to sell.
Yeah.
Businesses can go through a transformational process prior to deciding to sell in order to increase their values by tweaking some bits and pieces, and having the right people on board who can coach and guide on how to do that. We've seen so many businesses that are undervalued, but also we've seen businesses that are overvalued.
Yes, it's we do a little bit of a little bit of teaching on these sorts of things, and you know the examples we've seen of people saying, well, you know, I had to put £500,000 into the business, so it's worth £500,000. It's well, yeah, but it's not making any money, so it's or whatever the number, you know, and it's or it's you know, and or I need £600,000 to buy my house, therefore I want the business to be worth 600. It just doesn't work like that, does it?
Totally, absolutely. It's I would say if I were to give a two takeaways for business owners to focus on, I would say make sure you maximize your recurring revenues
Yeah,
because that's what increases your multiples
yeah.
on your EBITDA,
Hang on.
and make sure you get your financials in the best shape.
Yeah,
Not by engineering it, but by just making sure that it is that you cross the I's and dot the T, that you dot the I's and cross the T's.
yeah, and I think that you know there are often in businesses that they can carry a lot of financial fat that they don't really, you know, and I agree with you, not trying to strip it right back down, but you know, things like subscriptions to things we don't use anymore, equipment that we don't need. Let's get us fit, you know, fit for purpose. Let's get fit. Let's lose the pounds we don't need because it's lean and people are really primarily looking at the bottom line of profit and cash in terms of the value of the business.
Totally, absolutely, yes.
So, if I may, I'm really fascinated. I think a lot of people are fascinated in acquisition because so few people that I work with, I come across, are looking at growth through acquisition primarily. It's primarily organic type growth. If I was to ask you the three sort of, let's go green flag, red flag? What are the three things, let's say, that you're looking for that would make a good business to acquire for you, not necessarily for everybody, but also what are the three red flags, things that you would walk away from if you saw that would make a bad deal for you?
Um, sure, good question. I would say financial performance
Yeah,
needs to be steady.
yeah,
Um, when it starts to fluctuate, we get tons of question marks, and sometimes we even walk away before we touch the deal.
yeah,
So we would like to see a financial stability
yeah,
year on year. With growth would be even better.
yeah.
But even with that growth, when we see that financial stability, we feel very comfortable and confident to start a conversation.
Great.
And the second thing I would say is the team in place.
Yeah,
We when we plan to acquire businesses, we want to see that the business is run and operated with as little influence as the owners. So, as you know, there is an owner and there is an owner operator, and most of the time it's an owner operator, isn't it?
yes, yeah,
When it's an owner operator, it gets a bit tricky.
yeah,
I'm not saying it's impossible, but you need to have a team in place
yeah,
that do the job with a clear organizational structure
yes,
to see all of the lines between the management and the member of staff and understand how much involvement the owners have got in the business and how could that be passed to
yeah,
others. One of the very main questions we ask when we first meet or when we are qualifying leads is who runs the business if you go away for a month?
great.
Yes, yes. And the third red flag, I would say, is when we have any client concentration.
Yes,
So if there
yeah,
is a client A that does take 35-40% of turnover, then we go like, oh, hold on a minute.
yeah,
If anything goes wrong with one client, we're losing almost half of the business, maybe slightly less, but that's a huge red flag. So
yes,
I would advise to diversify the portfolio. I know sometimes it's difficult, but it's also in the benefit of the owners, not only if you want to sell.
yeah. It makes perfect sense. We've done a fair bit of work with a guy called John Warrilow who um, wrote the book Built to Sell, and he talks about eight key factors, and I would suggest the three you've identified are probably most important. But he describes that as I think he describes it as the Switzerland factor, i.e., being independent, and he talks about the business needs to be independent of any key client and individual or supplier. So client, team member, or supplier, team member often being the owner operator. If it's dependent on any one or two a few key ones, then it has an inherent instability, and therefore its value is less. So, and it's interesting because I mean, our definition in Action Coach of a true business is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without its owner, and therefore it gives the ability to either have a business that works without us, and therefore we can have passive income, or the value of that business in that we've seen time and time again is multiples of what it would be when it's totally dependent on the owner. If that makes sense to you, and not trying to increase the amount you have to pay for businesses, but that
No, totally. No, totally.
yeah,
You're absolutely right there. 100%. Yes, the better the business becomes from management, owner perspective, client base, it's the better it gets. And
yes.
if you add recurring revenue on the top of that,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, really valuable things. And so whether that's to do with the acquisition but the growth in general, what are some of the other sort of challenges that you've had to face over this last year, Mo?
economy. If I were to sum it up in one thing, I would the economy. The economy it feels a bit stagnant.
Yeah,
Although I know the government and the Bank of England's coming out there and saying we have improved, things look a bit better. We're turning a corner, or we've just turned a corner. But I want to say that on the ground, we
yeah,
don't feel that yet. Maybe on paper, yes, but we haven't yet got that feeling. Maybe it'll take a month, two
yeah.
down the line in order for us to get it. But I would say it has been one of the most challenging from the last 8 years I have ran businesses.
I That makes perfect. I really couldn't agree more. I think it's a good example that actually financial situations are more about a mood and a feeling, not about numbers. Because I've seen people being in recession but actually doing very well, and I've people like right now we're not technically in a recession, but business is acting like we are. If that and it's a really strange situation at the moment, isn't it? I think there's a high level of uncertainty, which I think is part of the big problem that we have, not really knowing what the future looks like.
You've hit it there. It is the uncertainty, isn't it? And when it's uncertain, then we all try and keep our cards close to our chest.
Yes.
And big part of that is our investment, our future plans, our monies.
Yeah.
And probably that's what stops things in its position, because it's a complete supply chain,
Yeah.
and we're all dependent on each other. When one part of the supply chain is broken, or is decided to take a decision different to the others of the other people in the supply chain, it will have a knock-on effect all across.
Yes. Yeah. That makes sense.
And the economy does interfere into that supply chain.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, it's a really strange thing because there's almost like a disconnect between what the numbers are telling us and what people are feeling, and I think I really do honestly believe that we can talk our way into financial problems as much as we can talk our way out of them in many ways, and I think it's
True. That's absolutely right. And being involved in part of my businesses within the hospitality, being involved into that industry, it has been stressful in the last 12 months, and I think it's been a record high of closing down pubs.
yes,
We seeing that happening left, right, and center, and we keep seeing articles from the big
yeah,
breweries out in the country saying, "Look, we're struggling to pay our debt," and they're trying to refinance it. Look, it's a knock-on effect since Brexit.
yeah,
Let's be truthful. Brexit has happened. We've had COVID, and then the war in Ukraine, and it all has a knock-on effect
yeah.
to where we are today.
Yeah, I would agree completely. It's three such. I'm sure we talked about this last time, but it's three significant events that I don't think we will see another period where you have three such significant events in a relatively short period of time. And I guess it's not surprising, therefore, that there's an element of instability and unsurety in people and therefore the marketplaces.
Absolutely, and look, it's tough time. Like I want to touch base on that side of things as well. We always go and put put success out there on social media, on marketing, on LinkedIn, and we say, look what we've done, look at this beautiful project, look how much we've grown. But at the same time, I want to say to all of those entrepreneurs out there and business owners, look, it's tough, and there is no shame going out there and say, look, we're struggling, we need help. Just
Yeah.
I think people need to come out and talk about the struggle that they go through.
Yeah.
We have been through that, and it is a lonely place sometimes, and it gets to be a lonely place, and it gets to be a little bit tough and stressful. So we need to take care of our own well-being. We need to charge and go ahead again, trying to succeed with those businesses.
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. So obviously you're on track. Things are going well. What are some of the sort of wins that you've had along the way over this last year?
So we have made a couple of acquisitions, one in the Midlands and one in South Wales. That has helped us. We have got tons of more acquisitions in the pipeline. We have taken a step back as a group, and we started to look more at our efficiencies.
Yeah.
Let's say in the moment where economy is going south, and we feel like things are not going in the right direction. Well, let's take a step back. Let's focus on what we do best, and let's try to make the best out of that.
Yeah.
And I think those are the little wins that we have managed to capitalize on. We've connected people more within the group, and I think when you get people to talk, it helps, because you would be even surprised that many people might have a bit of an issue by finding a solution for a matter, but just by passing it over to the rest of the team, even if they are in different offices, you get really nice little hints and solutions on how to resolve that issue, and then it gets easier and easier.
Yeah.
So I find it that getting a good line of communication between your member of staff, it is what pays off.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And I often find entrepreneurial people aren't very good at celebrating their wins. So how good are you at celebrating the wins that you've clearly had over this last year?
We're really, really good at celebrating. Look,
Brilliant.
we absolutely we love to celebrate the good wins, and whether that it's a huge acquisition, which is doubling over, or I don't know, or whether that's a little small project, or even at a very small level, as in when we get a really nice feedback from a client saying, please can you thank that engineer for us that is attended today, and he's done a phenomenal job. So we make sure that we celebrate our wins, whether no matter how small it is or how big it is, it's a win. We make sure that we give back to the people that we work with. Yes.
Wonderful. Yeah, funnily enough, we in our when we work with clients, we talk about meeting structures and just have simple meeting structures, and we've always called it LION. So nice, easy way of any meeting. LION stands for last. So last week, what happened? I for issues, what we're stuck on. O for opportunities, we think we could do this better. And then for next week, what are we going to achieve in the week coming? A few years ago, we added S because we felt every meeting should have a success to celebrate. So every person comes with something, and it may just be, yeah, I made that difficult phone call that I've been putting off, or it might be that, yeah, we've won a big order. But anything from big to small is so important that everybody celebrates something on a regular basis.
Yeah, what a great way to add to the mix in order to celebrate. 100%.
It's great.
Sorry, go on. What I say to my team and to the people that I do, to the inner circle, I would say fail doesn't exist. You either win or you learn.
Great.
So you either succeed or you succeed, because learning is success anyway.
I was speaking to a lady yesterday. She said no experience is wasted.
100%.
I thought that was a really cool way of looking at it. It really doesn't matter. And in fact, and I probably said this last time, but I remember our founder, a guy called Brad Sugars, and founder of our organization, said he believes he's successful as he is, and he's a very successful man because he's made more mistakes than anybody else, not despite it. It was the willingness to make mistakes.
Wow. Thumbs up.
Yeah, it's a great one, is it? Because and it really did make me step back and think for a second because I'm by no means a perfectionist, but I have always believed it's about trying to avoid mistakes and failures. But that put it, front foot. Don't worry. Yeah, we win or learn, as you said, and just keep moving on. And what have you learned? So, anything that you'd say that you've learned specifically over this last year?
Specifically over the last year, I have learned to look more into the detail.
Right.
Focus on the detail, absolutely. Focus on the detail and look for anomalies. Those would
Yes.
help business to grow.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, anomalies. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I mean, obviously, it's been an interesting year in many ways, and certainly the acquisitional side is very fascinating. What have you learned further about yourself, would you say, Mo, this year?
Oh my God, what I've learned about myself. I've learned about myself that I do get carried away with my own emotions.
Yeah,
and 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 I've learned that having the right people around you do help you even when they have different qualities to yours. So I come
yes,
across as a very enthusiastic person. I like to drive. I like to put a vision and go and achieve it. And even sometimes I may put some targets that they might not be 100% achievable within that space of time, but I just go for it and I trust and believe that it is
brilliant,
achievable. But then you get the people who surround you. For example, our consultant CFO, he comes and say, "Well, but Mo, it's not going to happen this way." Because of this and that. And then you take a step back. For a moment, you think, well, but I feel like this is slightly negative now. I'm putting all of the positive and I'm getting a bit of a negativity. But then you take a step back and you look at it and you think, well, in all fairness, there is a point there because if I'm going to put my energy into something and it's going to be to waste,
yes,
and someone else is saying to you, be careful. We've tried this before. It's not going to work this way. So you need to take the advice. Yes, so I've learned about myself that I'm over enthusiastic, but I've also learned that I'm able to calm myself down
yeah,
and take a step back, focus on what's going on, and regroup again. So yes, sometimes my emotions take the best out of me from a drive point of view, which
brilliant.
is not a bad thing, but yes, taking a step back from those emotions, talk to them,
Yeah,
to the emotions, and things will get resolved.
I think it's really valuable to have different behave. We do a lot on behavioral profiles, but different behavioral profiles, different types of people, and different people on that sort of risk comfort, risk averse scale, because you actually, I believe, you actually want a level of healthy friction. It's a healthy, not unhealthy, but healthy friction, because ultimately friction is energy. So this sort of coming together still creates something positive. And yeah, we need someone that says, well, just watch out, maybe just have another think and another look. And that's
Don't
helpful, I
get
think.
carried too much. This
Yeah,
this deal this deal is not as good as you think it is.
well, that could be the case, can't it? And I mean, if you want to see people get carried away, just go to an auction. I mean, auctions where people just have to win, and they'll pay so much more for something once they've decided they want it, and it's a fascinating thing, absolutely fascinating.
Yes.
Well, no, so brilliant, yes, brilliant year since we last spoke. What does the next 12 months hold?
Well, we keep pushing. We have a plan. We're touching line 10 million turnover now. We have a plan for the next 12 months that we want to get up to about 15, 16.
Well, wonderful.
Once we achieve that, and people ask me sometimes, well, how many more acquisition that is? And I genuinely don't know because it could be one,
Yeah,
it could be three, it could be
yeah,
four. It depends on the size. But once we get to that stage, we're going to take a step back and run the business for a couple of years without any
yeah.
further
Right.
growth by acquisition. We will carry on growing organically.
Yep.
However, we would like to create a senior management team on a group level.
Yep.
And we can prove that we are able to run it, maximizing everybody's benefits, as in stakeholders in the business.
Brilliant. That makes perfect sense. So, I mean, it's that sort of growth stability, isn't it? It's such a sensible model because, there's always going to be challenges as we absorb other things, and it's sensible to then have that period of review and consolidation.
Totally.
And any sort of new initiatives, anything that we should be watching out for this year other than the acquisitions? I guess that's the big focus.
To be fair, what I have done is I have created a little new venture for myself, where I wanted to start to give back to business owners and business entrepreneurs.
Right.
And that venture is it's to help business owners who are planning to sell or to grow to have the right mentoring and help from someone who has done this before.
Yep.
Who's been on the acquisition for the last couple of years, but he's been running the business for the last 8. So I'm trying to help and give something back.
Brilliant. Oh, well, wonderful. And I'm sure that'll go well. And it was one of the reasons I focused, early on about this, because so many people I think that I meet have never they run one business, and therefore that idea of what's outside of one business is something that most people don't consider, things like acquisition. And I agree that it is, it clearly has its risks and challenges, but it is probably the most efficient way of growing significantly in a shorter period of time than organic growth.
Couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah,
you've put it right there with that sentence, 100%.
Brilliant. Well, maybe it'd be great to talk further about how we can help with that, because it's something that's certainly close to my heart too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Mo, thank you so much for your time this morning. It's been fascinating again. And best, well done with what you've achieved so far. Best of luck with the next set of acquisitions. For anyone watching today that would like to get in touch with you or enter your group, or is interested in your knowledge and help about acquisitions, what would be the best way to do that?
I'm genuinely, I'm very approachable. I would say my LinkedIn profile is the best way forward. Just type Mo Romanowicz and find me, send me a message, connect with me. I'll connect with everybody. I'll message everybody back, and I'm more than happy to engage in chats and see if we can help each other. Brilliant.
Wonderful. Well, look, again, let's make sure we catch up again in another 12 months, because it'd be great to see what you've achieved and what you've learned further. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
Certainly, my pleasure. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thank you.